Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history, and today we're going to be taking a look at this old farmhouse behind me that has been in the same family since about 1850, and we were trying to determine right now if it was actually built in 1850 and how it's all put together. It's kind of a mystery. You'll see that when we get inside of it. I'm out here today with Joy. Y'all have seen her before when we took a look at her family cemetery that she's done a phenomenal job of fixing up. And she's going to tell you a little bit about the history of this house.
Its origins is a little bit unclear, but we know the family had the property in the mid 1850s. 1852 we did not own it, and then by 1856 we did. And my grandfather was actually interviewed by William Davidson for the Rockaway and Talbot books, and so there's discussion about whether it was originally a dog trot, which would have been 2 rooms with a breezeway, which you can kind of see that layout when you come in. And you can see up here there's indications that there was a heat source in that room, but whether it was original is in question, as well as this living room with the fieldstone fireplace. Whether that was original or not is not entirely clear, so we've been kind of looking at chimney lines and roof lines and trying to deduce that. So this house was lived in until this past Thanksgiving, but now the renters have moved on, and so family has access to the house again, because we hadn't really been in this house since the late 90s. My grandmother lived here until then. So we've started to do some work, pull out some old carpets, pull out drop ceilings, and when I say we, I mean one of my cousins. He's been working on that primarily. But so it's fun to go in now and look, because you can kind of see up into the roof and the ceiling and all the different lines of how it was constructed. So potentially William Story was the original owner, and well, he was the original owner, and he would have built the original pieces. But I had a great uncle who was a carpenter, and my grandfather was a carpenter, so family has added on different pieces over the years, and with the latest addition being in the back, a bathroom. The first internal bathroom was put into the house about 1955 when my mom was in high school, and then another bedroom was added on back there and a dining room. So yeah, it's interesting, because I was just telling Robert that when I was a kid, all of this, you can kind of see this sandy dirt down here. There was kind of a common process, I think, in this area, or this area of Georgia and maybe even the South, was to sweep the yards, I guess. And I guess my grandmother liked the way it looked, but I think also there was a historic purpose of keeping things from growing. And my mom used to talk all the time about how she hated to have to go sweep the yards. And she and my aunt would be out here sweeping yards, going around in circles, sweeping the yards. And when they would hear a car coming, they'd run into the house, because they didn't want the neighbors to know that they had to sweep yards.
Wow.
So my same cousin who's been pulling out all the carpets and drop down ceilings, this was covered in vine. You can kind of see up there, it just taken over. And the first thing he did was try to cut that all off. It was a massive undertaking.
At least it wasn't wisteria.
No. Oh yeah. So this room is possibly not original, but maybe relatively, I don't know how new it would be, maybe 1900 or 1920. But it's the only fireplace heat source that was in the house as a fireplace, and it was converted to gas. So when I was a kid, it was gas. And there in the kitchen, there was also a spot for gas. So those were the 2 warm rooms in the house in the winter. And yeah, so this is where the TV was when I was a kid, and the little tabletop. There was a little round table here with the Christmas tree, and we piled full of presents. You know, this was where all the family gathered, in this little room. There was a sofa and just chairs, and when I think back on it now and I look in it, like with the drop ceiling, it feels so small without any furniture in, but it just, as a kid, it was massive and huge and fun.
And so I think last time it was it carpeted when we were in here?
It was carpeted last time. Yeah, I think the molding, was is giant, it's huge, it's very cool. There was carpet, and again, the drop-down ceiling is still here, but in some of the other rooms, you'll see it's removed, and it, you know, so you could get more height out of it. But
And you've got the great old air conditioners that really froze you out.
yeah, these were, like I said, there's nothing central about the way this house was done. So I remember that was even a later addition, because I remember fans, those old cast iron fans,
Right.
you know, don't put your hands in the fan, that kind of thing. But I remember laying there in the heat of summer, not moving, and just, you know, letting it blow.
Yeah.
It was like so fun. So yeah, and so that's this. And this may be the most original room in the house. Is you can see up into the roof, and we can talk about that. You can also see where the drop ceiling came out. So how much, you know, bigger it feels. This was, when I was a kid, this was a bedroom. And my understanding is that there were 5 children that grew up in this house. And so this was their bedroom. There were twin beds in here, and they shared beds until they left for college, basically. And then it was always a bedroom when I was a kid, when we would come and stay.
So then we've got a couple closets here that are interesting to look at. This one is just closed in with this. I forgot the name of this wood, but I know it does not hold up. Some kind of pressed wood there. But over here in the other closet, can really see where some of the original wood shines, or some of the older wood shines in here.
Yeah, it's a question about whether these closets were really originally the frame out, because they really didn't do closets in
No, that's
houses
right.
like this. So at some point, you know, these little walls, but like, could this be very original wood, maybe, or this, or the floors, you know?
Right.
It's hard to say.
For sure. And something that I was looking at in here is, for one, the changes in the wood. You know, we've got these big wide boards over here. We've got narrower board here, and then tongue and groove over here. I was also looking at the nails. Of course, prior to 1880, it was square nails. So if this house was built in 1850, we should be seeing a lot of square nails. And I see a lot of round nails in here.
And this side is the boards go a different direction.
That's right.
Completely. So, and they're very wide. So that's probably a much newer situation.
But I do see one square nail sticking out up there. You see that one?
Oh.
Right there in the center, the square nail sticking out. I don't know, you know, this board may have been reused. The other thing I was looking for is saw marks, and this doesn't really have very visible saw marks, which makes me think it's not that old, but it's hard to say.
I mean, it was here when I was a kid, so that would have been mid-70s for sure. And I know that there was an addition done on the house in the back in the 50s. And I believe the kitchen may have been added on in the 20s by my great Uncle John. So, yeah, lots of adaptations as all the families lived here and used it.
So this may be as well an early part of the house. And of course, as we know, we've looked at old houses, walls could have been moved, a lot could have been changed. But judging from what you'll see in the attic in a little bit, this may have been original as well. Wider floors here, but the floorboards to me don't look very old. Well, when I say that, I mean they look maybe late 1800s, turn of the century versus 1850. So kind of hard to say. Lots of changes here.
But probably if this was a breezeway, this was where it stopped. Well, I know it
Right.
was. The bathroom was an addition. Yeah. And when I was a kid, we actually, you know, this is a big hallway. As a kid, we played in this like a room. There was a little, like a phone table,
Yeah.
and if I remember right, and there was a rotary phone, and that was a big deal because the rotary phone was rented from the phone company,
Oh, wow.
you know? So I remember seeing the phone bill and being like, what the heck? And over here, my uncle has this now, but when I was a kid, it was so fun. We would play Office because there's an old now defunct town near Oak Mountain in Harris County it was called Cleola, and there was a post office there. That was a family, my grandmother's side. Anyway, the old, the little pigeonhole post office desk sat here, and so we played Office all the time when
That's
we were
awesome.
kids running around. There was an old trunk over here that like one of my uncles had built in shop class at I guess Talbot County High School, which no longer is, well, the original building that they were in is no longer there. So my grandmother went to Waverly Hall High School, which is no longer, right? And then my grandfather went to Talbot County, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And this was your grandparents' bedroom? Is that correct?
My grandparents' bedroom, and the bed usually sat here facing that way, facing the windows. And I didn't realize that there was a heat source, and it was never here when I was a kid. So I was looking at the roof and realizing recently, like, oh, huh. So I asked my uncle, and he said he remembered there being like maybe a wood burning stove or I guess a gas when he was younger stove. Why they would have pulled that heat source out? There's still no central
Right.
AC or heat, and so in the winter, I remember staying in this room and that room, and it was like you woke up in the morning, you're like, I'm gonna have to put my feet on this cold floor. I've got to make it to the kitchen where Grandma has it all toasty and warm in there, but you had to make it from there to here, or from here to there. So,
And if we look up there, you can see the wood burning stove chimney.
which wouldn't you be afraid that would fall on you in the night?
Right. For sure. I wouldn't want to sleep under it. That's for sure.
I'm just wondering what the thinking was. I guess it's too heavy to take it out, but darn.
And we'll look at this in detail in a little bit, but if you look up in the roof, you can see that this tin roof and the roofing purlins are spaced for tin versus other parts that are spaced for wood shingles. So some kind of changes there that we'll take a closer look at in a little bit.
Potentially this breezeway room was the end.
Yeah.
You know, the roof ended there. And because that's made, didn't you say it's spaced for?
Yeah, that's spaced for wood shingles.
Another interesting thing about this is when we pulled up the carpet, and when I say we, I mean my cousin, there's linoleum in here. So I wonder if because it had a heat source, and like I said, I do think that the kitchen may have been not added until the 1920s. I'm not 100% sure about that, but did they use this as their kitchen for a little while? There was during that time, there would have been an external kitchen, and there's a photo of it in the Rockaway books. It was gone by the time I was a kid, but so I wonder if that's why linoleum is in this room. So
Could be.
it's a mystery.
We'll have a look in this way. Now these are the 1950s editions, correct?
Yes. So the bathroom, this what we call the dining room, and the room you're in now, were added in the 50s. It has a flat roof, and so it's more susceptible to water, and it's got mold. And I think the tenants smoked, and so that's why there's a lot of it's all yellowed here. But this is not. This is like a 1950s situation. But still, even in this room, there's 6/6 windows, and in here, bigger 6/6 windows. So.
So you can see the flat roof.
Yeah, and where water has gotten in and damaged and whatnot. But yeah, this is the dining room. We almost never sat in here to eat. And then the kitchen, which is interesting because you can see that the paneling in here is very different than that sort of green and white faux wood stuff. So I think that this was around 1920s by the great Uncle John, but not 100% sure about that. Might have, yeah, I don't know, I think so. So it'll be interesting when we get like the ceiling pulled down, or I don't know, maybe the ceiling doesn't come down. In this room, it's different. It's not drop down ceiling exactly, is it? Or what do you think?
I don't know.
It's not the same panels.
Yeah,
as
it's
the
not.
other ones were. So, interesting. But this was basically the layout. We had a farm table here. The heat source was here, which is why you tried to sit right here in the mornings, have your coffee. And my grandmother always used a percolator to make a coffee, so it was like camp coffee, like
Nice.
that smell. It was amazing. So yeah.
And you've got the nice screened in back
Yeah.
porch here.
We've been told that the original well was here, and when they added this on, that's how they covered it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so outside the house, we'll be able to see some different shapes going on where you've got this section here with this central peak, and we're thinking that this may be a more original part of the house. We'll take again a closer look at that when we go up in the attic. And then of course back here, which was the kitchen addition, which was, you said 1920s, right?
I think so. Somebody mentioned they thought, one of the aunts or uncles said they thought maybe it was added in the 1920s. My grandfather had, I'm trying to think when he left, he was over in Oak Mountain for a while working at the Oak Mountain Mill. Then he came back here in the 1940s and started a dairy production. I think they sold to Wells Dairy.
Gotcha.
And so I don't think he was part of actually the converting of that. But like I said, over here there's a little tiny shed, but originally there was a lean-to up against a bigger outdoor kitchen. So that was still standing in when Davidson was doing those books, so around 76 or so. But I don't remember it as a kid. I think it had already fallen. And then this shed I think was used wood from that to build it, because it's a different shape than the lean-to that was on the original kitchen. So
And so there's, from the outside, you definitely have no doubt about the era and the addition with the asbestos siding and the flat roof here.
just fun. It's kind of fun to see, you know, how a house progresses and changes.
Oh, it really is, yeah.
And especially like we're at, I think, around 180 years of having it in this family. But I was doing some research at the Georgia Archives this past weekend and realized that we almost lost this property in 1894 because Sarah Story, the wife of the original, you know, she was the original owners. That's when she died. And I thought she had died in 1920 because that's when her estate was settled and all of the property in the house went up for sale on the Tobbleton Courthouse square, and then my great uncle John bought it back. So that's just, it's like super interesting to think, you know, how it could have been gone so long ago and yet it wasn't, and now all these additions and all this living has happened here, so it's really special. I think it's very cool.
It is. All right, so we're going up in the attic somehow. Sure all that'll hold me.
Wait a minute, how am I going to spot you? Hold on this.
Let me even this out a little bit. Got it now. Okay, I'll set the camera up there.
Okay.
Where I can get it. Set the light up there too. We going now, maybe. Maybe. Oh wow.
Can you see all the way through to the chimney over there?
Yeah, I can. It's interesting. It's definitely been changed, as we know, but it's kind of interesting to see it. Oh, this had knob and tube. I think that's knob and tube. Maybe not. I don't know. It's the old big white insulators.
I know that my grandfather was one of the first to do that Delco system in the 40s.
Yeah.
But I guess there was a house that's, or a little, they called it the Delco house, but it was just like a little shed. I don't know if that meant, how that translated to electric in the house exactly. It did translate somehow, but.
So there's another wood burning stove in the kitchen?
It wasn't, well, I don't, maybe actually, can you see evidence of it? I mean, they have a gas thing right on this
Let me see.
wall.
Let me see if
I
I
don't see evidence of it outside.
I'm gonna try to get up here all the way.
I mean, that's why I think that kitchen is later, because there's really. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Can we do it? Oh, I got it. Maybe not. I need like just a couple more feet. Getting back down would be the hard part.
You know what? In the kitchen, the ceiling's lower.
Is it?
It might, in the little attic. I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's not.
Up here it's the same height.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if
Never
it's
mind.
got a drop ceiling or not. Why did I just pull a tick off of me? So, anyway, getting back to this. So we may not be able to do full attic explore, but we can see it really, really well up here. You can see the old wood shingles. And this is an older part of the house for sure. Because you see, this would have come down and this would have been exterior roof right here. It's fully wood shingled. So that means that this that sticks out on the front would have been an addition more than likely. And if you look in there, you can see that I confused myself there. It appears to be that the roof was built specifically for tin, versus this one. You can see that the spacing on the I'm forgetting what these are called.
The shingles or those types of lace?
The boards that the shingles are nailed to. There's a name for them, purlins. The purlins are spaced closer together here than they are in there. They're spaced the distance for tin in there versus being spaced the distance for wood shingles in here. Same as over there.
And that goes through the breezeway, but not that far from them?
Goes through this entire section of attic is spaced for wood shingles. The kitchen is definitely spaced for tin. It's spaced very far for tin, but this section up here is spaced, it looks like, for tin as well. But it's interesting that this was definitely an outside roof right here, with these wood shingles, which, indicates that that room was added on at some point. Of course, this room could, this section here, if it was a 2-room dog trot, could have been added on to, and it would have just been this where we are right now.
And there's no evidence of any kind of heat source.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've been discussing, is that there's no evidence for a heat source for if this was originally a dog trot. No chimney in this section of house, unless something happened and that was rebuilt over there. It's so hard to say.
That's true. And I don't know, what does that look like, 1850s wood versus or square nail? I don't know if they use square nails for the roofing shingles too.
Yeah, it would have been little square nails, and I do see some square nails sticking through up here. It's really hard to say, but I know one thing: it is hot up here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand you that. See what's in the cut mattress right here. Someone sure did slice that mattress open. Oh look, man, there's $1 million in here.
We'll split the difference.
Ain't nothing in there. All right, I'm gonna go look in the attic in this room. Got you that back, and we get a closer look at that wood burning stove chimney. Alrighty. There it is. It's just hanging over where you want to sleep.
I know.
See, it's interesting because let me set the camera down for a second. I'm gonna try to pull myself up there. So if you see up here, it looks like this section could have been added on right here. If we look at how the roof is done, you can see the wood shingled purlins there, and they end right there. And over here, it's spaced for tin. So very, very interesting difference here. I mean, looking at the roof and the way it's all joined together, it looks like the house originally ended at that doorway right there, and then it was added on to. It's hard to say. I'm gonna hand you that back down so I can get down from there. But I agree with you about the heat source. You would think that even in the little cabin, they would have had heat.
Yeah, it's such a interesting.
Because so what looks from the roof line, what looks original is from here to here, just these 2 rooms. I don't know, unless there was another chimney and they tore it down and rebuilt that one.
Yeah, or like you said, if it had burned for some reason and then they rebuilt.
Yeah, or they rebuilt, yeah.
And started small and then decided to add on.
That's right.
This was a fun house, as as a kid. I mean, we have a lot of happy memories here. Like
That's awesome.
running through these rooms. You know, it's kind of a big circle. Anytime you put kids in a house like that, there's a lot of running around.
Right.
So.
And y'all are trying to save it now, which is awesome.
Yeah, we were talking about trying to maybe use it as like our personal community house to come out here. In the cemetery video, I talked about how we have a fire pit, and it'd be so nice to have shelter if it was to rain in the afternoon, which it often does, and just have running water and a bathroom and a kitchen sink to prep food and do cookouts,
sure.
and maybe get some long tables and chairs and just everybody get to use it, So
That's
because we
right.
all have memories here and we all have different types of memories, so it's definitely meant to be for all of us, so I think
Right.
it could be really amazing. So
And it stood so long.
I know it stood so long and it's been in the family so long, it would be awesome to save it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing this old house. Amazing to see an old house that has stayed in the same family and been standing for so long. And thanks to Joy for bringing us out here and letting us take a look. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.